Right. Well, we've gone long, John. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you really want addressed, and even a brief video bit that we can pull out of this later?
Um, well, I'm not saying anything that's not already on the written record, and I, was part of a debate about this last year at a technology conference in the industry. I really want to encourage financial institution executives, especially community financial institution execs, to let their minds wander away from the autopilot, that we're all accustomed to, and contemplate the unusual and the bizarre and the uncomfortable. And a great example of that right now is digital currencies, digital assets, cryptocurrencies, those kinds of things, because it's very likely that those instruments, those words that I just used, crypto, digital assets, that's going to be the confluence of everything that you and I talked about, right? That'll be the phenomenon that illustrates the point that we've been discussing here. Because that is the synthesis of money and financial services quite literally becoming digital, right? And deconstructing or deflating or radically synthesizing, the physical and the digital into a new world where money moves and is spent and is stored and is accessible in a totally different way to the consumer. So this isn't a plug to get your institution into crypto banking or crypto custodianship or anything like that. But it's definitely important to keep your eyes on regulations and decisions that are happening there, and to be willing to take risks, like we said earlier, because there are things moving very quickly, globally, and with the larger players and with regulators in DC. Like last week, there were rulings that went in favor of officially defining cryptocurrency as currency, and then these become game changers that more adept and dynamic players will take advantage of to disrupt our position in our communities, and probably not to the flourishing or benefit of our consumers and individuals and institutions that we're supposed to serve. So I think right now is the time to make sure that when we talk about controlling and stewarding and safeguarding and adding value to the data that your consumers need help with, that's a great example. Most financial institutions are likely to find themselves in a situation in the future, near future, where their consumers will need to store digital money or borrow against digital money. And I just think that's a great example of how the vendors and platforms and traditionalist thinking is radically unprepared and a disadvantage to deal with these things. And yet it's not going to stop it from becoming real, right? So
what's so interesting is, the concept of digital currency has been on the radar for some time, and yet I think for executives around the country, it's been, just way in the back, right? And suddenly, in a couple of months, weeks even, it's so real.
But that's the thing, right? That's where we have to deal with cognitive dissonance and admit that it always was real.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the smack across the face that the financial institution executive can either self-inflict or can deal with more painfully later, dealt from the outside. But what you just said about recent events is at the core of my concerns. It always was real, right? What probably wasn't real was this idea of blockchain as the silver bullet for solving all of member authentication issues. That was never real, right? That was always an idea, whereas digital currency was always real and was always fomenting revolution below the surface. And now we're seeing the froth, right? So there's that old saying that the mouse fell into the bucket of milk and swam so long it churned it into butter. We're probably better dealing with this while it's still froth, and we can, rise above it and before we get stuck in it, right? So I think that's an important epiphany that you and others like you can help push out there. Our denial of it, our refusal to see it, our cognitive dissonance, our binary thinking, online banking, physical retail, as an obsession and a model for our strategy, never changed the reality of these things that are going to disrupt our world. It only blocked us from seeing it and building strategies to be aligned to it. And that's what we believe we can help our partners do. So
Really good stuff.
all right, Matt.
Thanks
Good
so
chat
much.
with you, man. I hope that in this new world that we live in, you will be able to sit down and have a beer again soon. So
I would have thought our paths would cross by now again, John, but we got shut down. So I do look forward to that very much.
all right, man. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah,
All
see
right.
you soon, John.
Blessings.